Sea of Red, it's time for another Fireside Chat, the official podcast of Flames fans. It's go time.
Praise Scorch, they've done it. The Calgary Flames beat the Dallas Stars and are now moving on to the Battle of Alberta. As always, I'm Dan alongside Matt. Matt, I hope that not too many people paid for a whole seat at the Saddledome last night because they only needed the edge. That was a crazy game.
Oh, the Calgary was full marks in that game. Anytime that you're firing, I think it was 134 shots directed towards net, you could tell the team wanted it.
And they were the team that deserved it. Before we talk too much about that game, let's go back to how they got there. Way back to Game 4. I feel like I need one of those harp sounds from a 90s sitcom when they do a flashback.
We'll both just randomly look upwardly into the distance. You know.
If Game 4 feels like so far away at this point, but it was only the 9th, so a week before we're recording now on Monday. The Calgary Flames defeated the Stars in Game 4 by a 4-1 score. This was at the time probably the most dominant effort we'd seen from the Flames so far. I mean, score-wise for sure. But I would say even on the ice, pretty good. And this was the first game of what became a trend in this series of seeing 7 defensemen, 11 forwards when Richie sat out and Michael Stone was in the lineup.
Yeah, it was interesting that on our last show, we were talking about like changes that we would make, and that was one I specifically highlighted. And Michael Stone came in and was frankly stellar, not only in Game 4 but through the remainder of the series. And
they listened to half of you. They put an extra defenseman. They didn't make him a forward. That's what you always want them to do.
Well, I did preface it last week that cycle an extra forward, double shift them, so which they did do.
And I said I don't know if that's a change I'd make when you're down in the series, but
thankfully it worked, and Stone fired a whole bunch of shots in Game 4. The whole team did, and it took until a penalty shot in the third period for Johnny Gaudreau to break the deadlock at 1, and then the Flames just kept the foot on the gas the rest of the way and skated to a 4-1 win.
Dallas pulled their goalie with 6 minutes left in this game, which is crazy.
Well, when you're down 2 goals and you're up in the series, it kind of really doesn't matter. You need a goal just to get it close, and then you can put the goalie back in until like the last minute or so, like normal. But credit to Calgary and Michael Backlund for finishing that game off rather effectively, and the Flames even the series.
They even the series after Game 4 2-2. Then they went on to come back to the Saddledome for Game 5. And again played a 7-D-11 forward system and ended up winning 3-1 in this one. But I thought even though they won, the Flames just looked out of sync. After 2 periods, I didn't know if we were going to even get a puck past Dallas's goalie. Like, again, he looked so fantastic. But they just, I don't know, they got in their own way. I thought they were missing passes. They weren't crisp. They just looked out of sync.
Yeah, it wasn't until like about the last 5 minutes of the second period that things started getting a little more cohesive for the team. It was clear that like neither team wanted to make the first mistake in the game, and Dallas was playing very tentative. We were playing very tentative until Dallas scored on a weird bounce where Markstrom made the save off of Robertson. It bounced off of Noah Hannafin and went in the net. It's just one of those garbage goals that occasionally happen unless you're Calgary playing Jake Ottinger. And, Calgary was able to settle and refocus their game in the third period.
They won some battles and they hustled, and I thought that second line looked really good in the third.
Yeah, and reuniting Mangiapane Backlund with Blake Coleman, like there's just something in the sauce in that lineup with that particular trio. In the regular season, they were one of the best lines in hockey, and they showed it in that period. And they collected both goals on the goalie. A nice pass from Andrew Mangiapane to Michael Backlund for the redirect, and then Mangiapane just rifling one whizzing it right by the goalie's ear for the game-winning goal.
And that put Calgary up 3-2 in the series. They then went Friday night to Dallas, where they played Game 6. And, of course, Dallas had to make things interesting. In Game 6, Dallas ended up winning 4-2 over the Flames.
And this was the first
a crazy
time,
first. There was, no whistles in this first.
Yeah, this was the first time I thought Dallas actually showed up for a game in this series. Where, it was like they were an equivalent team, if not slightly better than Calgary in the contest.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there.
Like, it certainly was their best effort of the series.
For sure. Yeah, and again, I think weird hockey. I mean, like I said, no whistles in the first. Michael Stone got a great chance in the first. I'm glad he finally put it home in the second.
Yeah. I did.
This is
I
the
did
one
like
where Tanev left.
Yeah, I did like Kevin BX in the second intermission, talking about Stone and like Stone's interview in between the first and second periods, where he was talking about like having to put those chances away, and him referring to Michael Stone as Jaromir Jagr there. Like, okay, Jagr. And
that's it. Stone said after the first, he's got to bury them, and he didn't, and he went out and did it.
Yep. And it's like, well, yeah. And Stone was the star of the game for the Flames up front in this one. And especially with Tanev going out in both Game 6 and Game 7, filled in admirably, and everything that you could hope for from Michael Stone.
We got a tweet this week from a Vegas fan who's starting to wonder if we have the better Stone.
Well, I think that it might be a little bit of an interesting study with Michael Stone. Like, all the time that he missed due to injury and recovery, and then not playing just due to depth issues, might that not have helped him reset himself? Like, when he first came up with Arizona, he was a top-tier defenseman and thought of in a very high level, and then he just kind of had injury troubles, and like the wheels fell off the wagon a bit for him. And to me, like, he looks as good as he ever did when he was first with the Arizona Coyotes, which is really impressive.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to get too far into lineup stuff now, but I think you start to wonder if, maybe the Flames could do without bringing Zadorov or Goodbranson back because Stone could fill in.
Well, it's not even that. I actually do like if Tanev is in the lineup, but the extra defenseman in the lineup, just because of the fact that you're getting more ice time to your better forwards as well.
For the playoffs, for sure. But
yeah.
You're not going to go
in the regular season, no.
7-11.
Yeah. No, in the regular season, no.
Matt, that was the scary game for us.
After the last show that we did, like, I got some flack for saying like the Flames were going to be out in the next two.
Especially when you were the guy that wanted Sutter to come in, thought he'd lead him to the promised land, and then you threw Daryl under the bus.
Well, it was more throwing the team under the bus, because this team, ever since with this iteration of players, every time that they've faced adversity in the playoffs, they got going and disappeared, and it was a quick out every time. And after going down 2-1 in the series and being continually stymied by the goaltender, it's like, do these players have it in them to find the heart needed in order to actually get the job done? And they did bounce back to win 2 games, and then they had a real bad letdown, in my opinion, in Game 6. And it's like, which team is it going to be? Like, is this going to be just a repeat of every other season that we've seen in the last decade from the Calgary Flames? Or are they going to actually learn the lessons needed on exactly what you need to do to win a Game 7? And this team's never been able to turn the engine over to get themselves past the adversity. And it's one of those things.
And they did this time.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, like, the Flames throughout this whole series have outchanced and outshot and out-everything Dallas, and yet it going to 7 games, it's one of those where this is an extremely big deal for this group. because now they're in a situation where they will learn either to overcome basically facing the equivalent of hockey god in net for Dallas, or they're going to go home again and not really progress at all. And to their credit, they found everything, and they threw the kitchen sink, the bathroom sink, the garden hose, someone's left shoe at Ottinger, and finally one of them went in.
Well, let's get to that game. Before we leave Game 6, a quote from the coach at the end of the game. He said, "It was a hell of a game. We just couldn't get the equalizer." And Daryl's seemed pretty neutral during this whole series. But as you mentioned, the Flames came home, as we all know now, for Game 7. And the red lot was full. The Saddledome was full. As far as I could see, bars all over the city were full. Everyone wanted to see this. And the Flames went into this game with no Chris Tanev, which was a little bit worried. They did run 12 forward, 6 defensemen for this, but of course got the win in overtime. With 5 minutes left in overtime, Johnny Gaudreau became the playoff hero. John Michael Gaudreau puts that puck in the net and takes the Flames on to the Battle of Alberta. And Matt, some crazy stats in this game. After 60 minutes, the Flames had 108 shot attempts, 52 shots on net, and 27-29 of ozone time. When was the last time you saw a team spend half the game in the ozone?
Well, the thing is that Ottinger actually bested Ken Dryden's record for most saves in the first 60 minutes of a playoff Game 7. And he finished the series with the third most saves, or shots directed at him, I should say, of any goalie in NHL history. And only Curtis Joseph 1 year and Jonas Hiller faced more shots in a series against any team. So, like, the Flames in this game, you could see that they wanted it. And, like, yeah, they gave up the early goal. But from that point forward, like, the team just was resolved to beat Dallas. And Dallas did get a number of good chances. They did hit the post a couple of times. They had that breakaway in the third period. Pavelski had a couple of good chances. Sagan had a couple of good chances. But, you know, that's part of the reason why you pay Jacob Markstrom $6 million a season to make those big saves when you need them. And the Flames just kept pouring it on. And, you know, like, teams in the past from Calgary would have been frustrated by not getting the equal or the go-ahead goal, and would have probably allowed a stinker of a goal in overtime. But this team just kept the foot on the gas and just kept shooting until finally that seeing eye shot from Gaudreau in the corner ended Dallas's season. And I just want to say all the props to Jake Ottinger. What a performance. He deserves
so much credit, doesn't he?
Like, that was the most unreal, unbelievable performance I've seen by a single player ever in the playoff series. Like, that was just otherworldly. And
I mean, you know, we won't talk too much about Ottinger because we're not a Stars podcast, but I really wonder if he's going to be, you know, the next, you know, let's say, you know,
big thing like Carey Price.
Carey Price type, or if he's the next Jordan Binnington, where he looks great for a year or two and then he becomes a backup. Like, I wonder has he peaked at 23?
And that'll be the interesting thing to see. I think that because of his size, he'll have the staying power. But boy, did he do everything that anybody could ever hope for.
Before the playoffs, Matt, I was going on eBay to see what it would take to buy kryptonite, because I thought we got to find something to get rid of Superman here.
I know, like, it's like, how? Like, usually when you're throwing that many pucks on the goalie, a bounce will happen for you where the puck will go in, and it's not like the Robertson goal in the previous game that we were discussing. And it's one of those where, you know, like, everything that the Flames threw at him, he just ate it. And Or if he gave up a rebound, it would be harmlessly to the corner or right to a Stars player. And it's like, no matter what you did, like, unless you tipped it in front or it was a perfect seeing eye shot, like, there was absolutely nothing you could do to beat him. And I'm surprised that the Flames were actually able to get past him in spite of everything that he threw at Calgary.
I thought in the first, the Flames did a really good job to take Ottinger's eyes away, better than they'd done so far this series. Still didn't go in for them at all. The second period was all Flames. Dallas got better in the third. Matt, how many Flames do you think didn't have a shot in this game in regulation?
Probably one or two. I think it would probably be the fourth line guys.
Lucic and Richie.
Yeah, and I know Luch had one in overtime, so
yeah.
It's one of those things that for this team, like if say Ottinger was playing as a human being instead of being God between the pipes, the Flames probably would have won this series in 4 games just based on how different the rest of the game was.
4 or 5.
Yeah, like it wouldn't have been a difficult series. And I don't think that the Flames would have really learned any lessons from that. And I think that Jake Ottinger did one of the best things for the Calgary Flames that anybody possibly could. He gave them the biggest run for their money possible without actually beating them. And the amount of adversity that this team had to go through to just finally get a damn puck in the net. It's like what?
And it's so nice that their hard work paid off. You'd hate for them to work that hard. You know, and in that overtime, I don't know about you, but like every time there's a bad pass or Dallas touched the puck,
like when Zadorov made that one pass, and it's like, oh no, don't end it on this.
I remember sitting on my couch yelling, "The end is near! The end is near!"
Yeah, pretty much.
And then it's like, oh, good, it's not. Okay, phew.
Yeah, thank God for Jacob Markstrom.
You know, and yeah, I mean, we definitely have to give Ottinger credit in this one. But you know, the Flames, I think for the first time in this series in that one, looked like they wanted this. And I think, you know, you've got to give the Flames credit for,
for sure.
I'd say for the first time playing 60 minutes as well.
Well, and the thing is 75 minutes in this particular case, but the Flames, as a team, matured in this game, and I think that this team's not going to have the same hang-ups or problems that they've had of getting over the hump because of the fact that Darryl was able to walk them through what it actually takes to beat a good team. And Dallas, you know, the amount of defensive coverage and the goaltending, like there is no team remaining in the playoffs that can play that good defensively.
At least in terms of goaltending, it feels like we've already beat the final boss, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's one of those where Calgary needs to take the lesson of treat every goalie as if they're throwing what Jake Ottinger threw at you. And don't care about what the score is, just keep trying to, you know, beat the unbeatable goalie. And
treat them all like they're Ottinger.
Yeah, because if you're treating any of the goalies like that, and like the amount of like shots and chances, like you will score goals, and you know, because not every goalie goes into like Dominic Hasek, Patrick Waugh, Ken Dryden mode. You know, like they don't have that in them. And, you know, like I would rank Ottinger's performance in the first round as like one of the 2 or 3 best all time in a single playoff series. Like he was just insane.
You could see how emotional he was too after the loss.
Oh, for sure. Like he did everything. Like
he looked like he was ready to cry, and I can't blame him.
No, because like he was just absolutely phenomenal, and you know his teammates let him down. Like Dallas as a team was not very good. Like the Flames should have beat Dallas in much the same way that Colorado beat Nashville. Like it shouldn't have been close, but Ottinger gave the Flames a good education. And, now that they're going on to face the Edmonton Oilers, if the Flames had swept or won that series in 5 games, it might have been a little tough to adjust to the Oilers because the Oilers had to overcome their own adversity, winning their series in 7 and coming from behind to win. It would have been a little bit more of a challenge, I think, had the Flames not had, if they had just steamrolled Dallas to then go and steamroll Edmonton. But
Matt, you're burying the lead here. The Flames beat the Dallas Stars, and now for the first time since '91, it's time for postseason Battle of Alberta.
Yay!
All right, I'll be excited for both of us. When you look at these playoff opponents, I mean, there's nothing better that says rivalry, that says hockey than the Battle of Alberta.
True.
This is the 6th ever meeting between Calgary and Edmonton in the playoffs. The Oilers won in 83, 84, 88, and 91. The Flames have only won one of those series, which came in 86, and we're about to make that 2.
Yeah.
I don't know, Matt, when you look at what's happening here, I mean, not only is the rivalry, I'd say that rivalry's heated up over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
We've already started to see some of the Oilers beacon us. I mean, Mike Smith has already started beaking the Flames. 4 of the top 8 scorers in the regular season are going to be in this series. This is going to be intense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you thought the Dallas series was intense, this one's about to be intense.
Well, yeah. I'm not really how would you say? I'm convinced that one team will bring their entire A game, and I'm not really convinced that the other team has the horses.
But
in
even
the stable.
take it off the ice, though, just around town,
Oh, for
around
sure.
the the province. Like, I think if we look at this Flames playoff run already in 7 games and has taken over the city, this is going to be a fun one to live through.
Oh, for sure.
Everybody's got that one friend in Edmonton that we apologize for. This is the time that we get to rub it in their face. Like, this is about to become, I think, even if we go all the way to the end, I think this is the series we're going to look back on as the most fun.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying. And, with us doing this show since 2012, 2013, and ever since then, relentlessly mocking the Oilers, now I have to actually say some polite and pleasant things about them. So, yay.
Most of these players, McDavid, Gaudreau, Draisaitl, Puljujarvi, Tkachuk, weren't even born when these two teams last met in the postseason.
No, and to the Oilers' credit, they are a lot better of a team this season than they have been in the past. They're a more well-rounded team, and they have a few actual NHL caliber forwards to go along with McDavid and Draisaitl.
Like that kid that's been hanging out with them all playoffs?
Yeah. Evander Kane's been doing very well for the Oilers since he's come aboard. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is decent. Zach Hyman is decent. On the blue line, them getting Duncan Keith, even though he's not the same Duncan Keith, has helped solidify their defense core. Getting Brett Kulak has helped solidify their defense core.
That's what I never thought I'd say. Brett Kulak has helped somebody.
Yeah, that's not fair to Brett. He was good with Montreal.
Yeah, but he was kind of your depth guy that you could plug anybody in there.
True.
In Montreal. And you're right. I mean, the Oilers have been slowly making some inroads on their roster. But when we look at the two rosters side by side, I mean, let's compare these rosters line by line, shall we?
Definitely.
Calgary Flames top line, you've got Johnny Gaudreau, Elias Lindholm, and Matthew Tkachuk. The Oilers top line, Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, and Kyler Yamamoto. Which one do you give the edge to?
Well, the team that can actually play defense, so Calgary.
Second line for the Flames is Andrew Mangiapane, Michael Backlund, and Blake Coleman. Second line for Edmonton, Evander Kane, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Zach Hyman. I'd say that's pretty much a tie.
I'd still give the Flames the slight edge on that one, again, for the defensive play. Both of the lines on Edmonton's side are all offense, no defense, really.
That's true. And then you get to the third line. Calgary has Dylan Dubé, Kelly Yarncroke, and Tyler Toffoli. Edmonton has Josh Archibald, Ryan McLeod, and Jesse Puljujarvi. 2/3 of that line is who?
Pretty much. And Puljujarvi, which, he has been very good against Calgary, so I'll give him that.
Well, and Puljujarvi, I'd say, is a career NHLer. He's not a top line guy, but he's a guy who's shown enough, I'd say, to stay in the NHL.
Yeah.
And then
a
the
decent
last
middle
line,
six forward.
Milan Lucic, Trevor Lewis, and Michael Stone versus Warren Fogle, Derek Ryan, and Zach Cassian. Again, 2/3 of that line, Warren Fogle, take him or leave him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and one guy we're forgetting, Milan Lucic. The Edmonton Oilers are going to be paying $750,000 to play them in the playoffs.
Thanks. It's always good when you pay a player to beat you.
So we can figure out how much each punch to Cassian's face is going to cost.
Yeah.
I mean, let's go to the defense before we break this down, shall we?
Yep.
Defense, first pair for Calgary, Noah Hannafin, Rasmus Andersson. For Edmonton, Kulak and Ceci.
Okay.
I think you got to give that to Calgary.
Yeah.
Second line, Oliver Shillington, Michael Stone. For Edmonton, it's Duncan Keith and Evan Bouchard. Even if we go with either Stone or Tanev, depending on how you look at it, I think you got to give it. I think you got to give it to Calgary if Tanev's in there.
Yeah.
And then the third line, Chris Russell, who I'm surprised is still around, and Tyson Barrie versus Nikita Zadorov and Eric Goodbranson.
I'm
I'd say,
just asking, where's Darnell Nurse in that? Because you didn't include him.
Nurse is hurt right now, isn't he?
Well, he missed the one game due to suspension, but didn't he play in Game 7?
I don't know. He's not listed on Daily Faceoff on their. He's not listed on their defensive pairings. Maybe he took a maintenance day when, let's see, what was this? This was May 12th. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he took a maintenance day, or maybe this just isn't up to date.
Yeah, I think that's not up to date because I think Nurse played in Game 7 and he's on their first pairing.
So throw Nurse in there then. I mean, on that first pair. Yeah, it gets better, but I think Calgary has the better roster still.
Yeah, all three pairings, you give the edge to Calgary.
And let's look at the goaltending. You've got
the reigning
old man Mike Smith versus
a Vezina candidate
versus Jacob Markstrom.
Yeah.
What I think is going to happen, honestly, Smith loses temper very quickly. And we've even seen that when we had the goalie fight. I think the Flames are going to get in Smith's head and he's going to do something stupid and either take some penalties or, try to go after somebody, get himself tossed out, and then we're going to have to face Koskinen.
Well, I honestly think that we'll see Koskinen in the series either way. Just because if Calgary can continue their offensive play from the first round into the second, they are going to beat Mike Smith a lot. And yeah, it's just that, like Mike Smith is nowhere near the goaltender that Ottinger is. Even if Mike Smith plays good for Mike Smith, that is still
if they can put up that Game 7 pressure, Mike Smith is gonna fold real quick.
Yeah, it's gonna look like the Colorado series, but in this case, Edmonton is us.
Yeah, and that's fair, and I think you could easily throw that kind of pressure. I mean, we have to respect our opponents. They're in the playoffs. They made it to round 2, but I think that Edmonton's. If you look at the way Edmonton plays, they try to just outscore their opponent.
Yeah,
and I think that Calgary has enough defense talent that they're not going to just let these guys outscore us. And I don't think this is going to become a battle of who can score more. I think it's going to be battle of who can play all three positions, but I think Calgary's going to win.
Well, even if we do play the run and gun style like we did earlier this season, there was that one game the Flames beat the Oilers 9-6. So even if we're playing the Oilers game, we can outscore them. So
yeah, I just don't know if that's sustainable for 7 games.
I'm not arguing. It's just that if worst comes to worst and we have to play that run gun style, we have the horses to do that, and we have the depth to do that. On the offensive side and the defensive side, the Flames are better at every position. So
yeah, and I think you mentioned it when you talked about the Flames' second line there. the Oilers have forwards that are really one-dimensional. They're great in the offensive zone. They're very mediocre in the defensive zone. I think Calgary has a group of better two-way forwards, which I think is going to really help keep those Oilers scorers out of the right spot.
Yeah, and like if you look at the Los Angeles Kings, like they were without Drew Doughty, and Jonathan Quick did not really look that great in that series.
Not so quick anymore.
No, and the Kings are frankly a rebuilding team. Like only Adrian Kempe is like really their only dangerous guy, and they have a few other like okay parts, but like they're not a very good team. And like it was evident like they were like probably the single worst team to make the playoffs on either side of the ledger. And even then, it took 7 games for them to for the Oilers to beat that team. So, like, yeah, like Edmonton made the second round, but it's not like Edmonton is this amazing team. Like, they frankly, if they had played any of the other teams, I think that Edmonton loses in round 1. Like if they played Dallas in round 1, they lose that series.
I think that while the Flames fan of me says I agree, I think that we have to be really careful, not underestimating the Oilers.
No.
I think a lot of people underestimate the Stars a little bit. I don't think this is going to be a sweep. I think it's going to be a 5 or 6 game series because the Oilers do have enough talent that they can win 1 or 2 of these.
Oh, for sure. And I would be surprised if it was a sweep, frankly. Like I'm expecting there to be at least one game where Edmonton's power play bites us. Just because, but I'm just saying like over a full series, like I don't really see like unless something happens to Markstrom and like several other players, like I just don't see the Oilers, especially with Draisaitl's knee being messed up. Like I don't see like he was bad in Game 7, and like they only have 2 really exceptional players, and if one of them's out a bit or playing very slow, like that's gonna make it even that much more difficult for the Oilers to counteract what the Flames can do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Edmonton is going to come into this game or this series playing very differently. I think Edmonton is going to, and we've seen this in the past from them before in the regular season over the last couple of years, they're going to come out and try to bully the Flames. They're going to hit them. They're going to try and maybe take some cheap shots. Maybe they'll send Cassian after some of our guys. I think that, Edmonton's going to have to try and physically take Calgary out of the play.
Yeah, which at that rate, basically like Matthew Tkachuk should not interact with anybody. But, like all of the other physical guys that the Flames have, if they want to engage, I think that they should, go for it. And
even then, I would say, sort of like I said when we talked about Tkachuk last time, don't engage. Just skate away and let Edmonton take some penalties for it. Because if you engage, Matt, I'm worried somebody gets hurt. And we need them to go further in this round. And we don't have a lot of extra guys sitting around to bring in there. I think at this point, you've just got to say, if Edmonton wants to muck it up or Cassian wants to muck it up or whatever, just skate away. Let Edmonton take the instigator, take the penalty, and you know what? Let's beat them 5-on-4.
Yep. Well, it's one of those where like Calgary needs to play disciplined regardless of how physical or chippy it is. Like do it, but do it within the bounds of the rules. And, just try to frustrate them. Keep your legs moving, and Edmonton will take penalties. Like, they're not good defensively. And so, like, if you're, like, hemming them in the zone like they did with the Stars, like, where they were playing 3 or 4 minutes.
They'll get frustrated.
Yeah, they'll take a dumb penalty because they don't have the discipline to do anything other than that.
And I mean, you were mentioning Edmonton's power play. I think, if we start to push back, we're going to give Edmonton those power plays. And I think one of the keys to winning this is keep Edmonton off the power play.
Oh, for sure. Like, honestly, like if this series is played mostly 5-on-5, the Flames sweep this series. like Edmonton needs their power play and their power play to be effective in order to get any traction at all. And yeah, if this is like if the refs call the game like the game 7 that just was played was called, the Oilers are not going to have anything left. Like it'll be a quick series.
They'll run out of gas.
Yeah.
So, Matt, Wayne Gretzky is on TNT in the States, the new NHL provider there, and all the analysts, I guess, did their brackets there. Even the Great One thinks the Flames are going to beat the Oilers, which is kind of treason, I have to think, for the Oilers community, that their former stars gone against them. But I don't know, if even Gretzky's rooting for the Flames, I think that says something about confidence in this series.
Well, it's one of those things that you just have to look at the relative strength of. And, you know, like, it's sort of like the Calgary-Dallas series where, like, Calgary outclassed the Stars in every way. And it literally took an NHL record-setting performance by Jake Ottinger for that series to even get to 7 games, let alone overtime. And the likelihood that the Oilers, like, frankly, the Flames and Oilers series is a much similar mismatch that the Flames and Stars was. And unless they're getting some sort of otherworldly performance by one or more of their players, you know, it's just like the Stars series should have been over in 4 or 5. Unless they're getting something special from their team, like this series, just on a talent basis, should be a 4 or 5 or at most 6 game series for Calgary.
Are you at all worried of Mike Smith?
No. No, not at all. He, frankly, is the worst goalie that's remaining by a wide margin. No. He can play well, and like he does respond well when he's getting outshot heavily, which does bode well for Edmonton. But there is literally only so much that one guy can do, and like Jake Ottinger showed, like there's literally only so much one guy can do. And like if the Flames are torpedoing the Oilers like they did the Stars, like he's older and he's not as good, and like pucks are going.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way that 40-year-old Mike Smith right now can take the Oilers on his back.
No, like he'd have to literally play as good, save for save, as like Jake Ottinger, which he's never shown the ability to do in his entire career. So it could happen, but extreme doubt. And it would take that level of performance, I think, to make it interesting.
I think going from what we saw in Ottinger to what we're going to see in Smith, I think that the Flames are going to have other challenges with the Oilers that aren't the goalie.
Mm-hmm.
This is not going to come down to, put 100 shots on and you're lucky to get 2 of them, in the game. Like if you put 60 shots on Smith, you're probably going to get 40 of them in.
Well, it's one of those like like with Ottinger, it's like, why won't you die already? And
exactly,
like, and like I could understand why the Flames players might have gotten a little frustrated at times because, like, how many?
Like I said, I was going on eBay trying to find kryptonite. I'm like, we need to kill Superman here.
Yeah, and like even his stick made the save in overtime against Hannafin.
Well, and there was even times he lost his stick twice in that game, Ottinger, and he still saved the puck.
I know. It's like, really, dude, you're just showing off.
I think that curse that whoever placed on the team went the wrong way. Now we got Tanev out and Superman Ottinger.
I know. It just, yeah.
Somebody forgot to carry the 1 in their curse, and bad things happen.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that Edmonton, like, they're going to play tough, and, if games get out of hand, I'm sure that things will get gooned up a bit, like how Game 6 got a little rough after the 4-2 goal for Dallas. But, the Flames just need to remain focused and disciplined, and, Daryl knows what it takes, and we'll see. This is a completely different animal than what Dallas was. And I think that Daryl, with his vast experience, and guys like Lucic with their vast experience, they'll know, like, because of how like emotional the getting past Dallas was, being able to go like, okay, that's one. Now we got to reset ourselves and go again. And, getting the team to be composed enough to reset themselves and go again. And I don't think it'll take very much to get going.
One of the things I love about the Battle of Alberta is all the wagers and stuff that happen. And did you hear about what Calgary and Edmonton City Councils have decided on?
Oh, go for it.
The losing city's mayor and city council have to wear the opposing team's jersey, and the losing team's mayor will also be in full face paint, celebrating the opposing team at the first council meeting following the end of the series.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to seeing Edmonton's mayor with his, his flames all over his face. Like, it's these little things that you don't get in a Dallas series or a Nashville series that are going to make this one off the ice so much more fun around here.
Well, the true winners of anybody are the bar and restaurant owners in Alberta. Like anywhere that has a TV in it, frankly, is going to be packed in the next couple weeks.
I was talking to a colleague of mine whose brother runs some hotels in Edmonton. He thinks it's going to be good for him too because the Flames have some weekend games there, and he's expecting Flames fans will go up to Edmonton.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I'm sure that ticket prices are going to be insane for anybody actually going to the game. And just like how the Red Lot was packed, I think that the same is going to happen in Edmonton, even though it didn't really. But I think that you'll see a lot of red in there.
Do you think maybe we should just infiltrate their blue lot?
Yeah.
Do you think we could open a second one, like the red lot and the gold lot, just to show them that we can do two and they can't even fill one?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. It's going to be electric around the city. And even though it's only the second round, and we would probably, we'd be disappointed if we lost to anybody else in round two, but this just feels like must win because we know that our friends up north are not going to let us hear the end of this if they win.
Yeah, exactly. You need to shut that right down. And
yeah, and I think the players feel it too. And Matt, I even wondered in Game 7 how much motivation the Flames players had going into that, knowing it was Edmonton that's waiting for them over LA waiting for them.
Yeah, and how would you say Daryl has after the Game 5 win, he said to the team, "Did you enjoy how that felt?" And, with how electric it was at the end of that game. Oh, and by the way, props to Trevor Lewis in that one with that empty net goal, the second effort that he had on that play. True veteran leadership on that one. Anyhow, I think that the Flames are, they are enjoying the playoffs, and I think that build up to play the Oilers is going to be huge. And we have
enough guys that have been around here long enough, they know the stakes of the Battle of Alberta.
Yeah, and the only thing that after this series, if the Flames advance, I would be concerned about is them finding that gear again, just because of the emotion of beating Ottinger and getting the monkey off their back, and then a very emotional series against Edmonton, trying to then reset themselves for either the Blues or the Avalanche if they make it that far. It'll be interesting to see how Sutter can keep them focused on the task at hand.
Matt, we got, I think we've covered the Battle of Alberta pretty much as we can now before it gets started. Anything else about that battle that you want to chat about?
Not really.
I think we all know what's on the line.
Yeah.
We just got to wait for that puck to drop on Wednesday.
Exactly. We can go and try to parse out details, but, it's going to be all on the ice and who does what. And
one thing I think that's going to be underrated is the travel. The Flames can be in their own bed every night.
Yeah, if they want to.
And I think that could be, that could be something that helps them last a little bit longer going forward.
Well, I think that they would want to, like, especially for the road games, be on the road just to have the mentality of being on the road.
Well, in 2004, they put them up in hotels here in Calgary, so even if we're doing that, but I could see them fly back and stay somewhere else for those home games.
Yeah, it literally, I think this depends on what Daryl feels that the team needs at any given point in time.
We've got 2 fan questions from Twitter. Should we dive into them?
Yep.
One of them who we won't answer here, but we got a message from one of our fans, Bald Freud in the UK, who messaged us before Game 5 on Twitter. They won. Didn't message us before Game 6 and regretted it. Messaged us for Game 7 and it worked. So we're expecting to hear from him and everyone else on every game in the second round, because obviously chatting with Fireside Chat on Twitter is helpful. But here's the 2 we got this week. John Wallace Howell, at John Howell77 on Twitter, asked, what one thing do the Flames need to change going forward, and what's one thing they need to keep the same? Matt, why don't you answer that one first?
The one thing that they need to change, I think, is the level of physical intensity. I found at times was waning a little bit. Like, the Flames are a very big and physical team, and like, while it wasn't necessary against Dallas, I think that they need to ramp that up a little bit more so against the Oilers, just because Edmonton plays more of that style of game. Dallas was very much a passive team for most of the series, so it didn't seem to be all that necessary to go and goon it up a bit. But especially with the Oilers, and it just, I think it matters more to lay the body on when it makes sense. Don't go out and get out of line, but engage a little bit more on that front. And
what's one thing they need to keep the same?
Treating the goalie like they're God in between the crease. Because what Jake Ottinger did, like, no other goalie can match what he did. And Calgary got really effective at generating scoring chances in close, generating shots from the blue line, getting those shots through from the blue line, creating havoc in front of the net, especially as the series went on. And I think that they need to just keep doing that. Like, we saw Eric Goodbranson have 8 or 9 shots in the Game 7. Michael Stone had like 35 shots in the 4 games he played. Like, they need to keep on with generating that level of offense and just keep throwing things at the goalie. Make him work for it. And Mike Smith is old. Make him work.
Sounds like a teacher. Mike Smith is old.
Make him work. He won't. Ottinger is 23, and it took everything, for him to be able to hold on as long as he did. And even then, he was getting tired in the overtime in Game 7. The Flames just need to make Smith work, because he won't have the same endurance level that Ottinger did. And the more that you make him work, the more bad rebounds he'll give up, the more mistakes he'll make, and the more chances that you'll have to score on him, and the more goals that you can put in, and the more you can rattle them. They just need to keep it up.
I'm going to say that the thing the Flames need to change is winning faceoffs. I think that they could have done a lot better if they would have won more draws against Dallas. And I think that's going to be an important thing, especially with Edmonton, who has, I would say, a better group of centermen than Dallas does. That I think you've really got to win those, and you've got to have that ability to control that puck for the first few seconds after the faceoff instead of chasing it. So I think that's going to be a big thing for the Flames in this round is change.
Yeah, even if they lose the faceoffs, don't lose them clean like they were against Dallas.
Yeah, I guess that's fair, but it just seemed like every faceoff we were then having to chase Dallas to get that puck back.
I agree.
So I think that's a big thing they have to change. And one thing they need to keep the same, I'm going to say the Flames, I mean, I'm not looking at Game 7. I want to look at the entire series of kind of their body of work. I would say their consistency. They didn't play, I don't think, 60 minutes the entire series except for the 7th game. But I felt like in most games, I mean, Toffoli was in it, Coleman was in it, Dubé was usually, doing his job. I would say that everybody top to bottom was working. And so often in the past, when you and I have talked about Flame series, it's either been, the top line showing up and nobody else, or in some series, everybody else except for the top line showing up. So I think for me, the consistency being, we need everybody to be doing their job. Not everybody can obviously be scoring every night, but we need everyone to be doing what they're here to do. And I felt that overall in the Dallas series, we did that.
Oh, and I do want to point out that one player who's been receiving a lot of criticism has been Calle Jarnkrok. And I want to heap a lot of praise on him, actually, because I frankly think that he has been exceptional defensively. And he has gotten himself into a lot of good scoring chances. It's just either Ottingered him, or he shanked the puck a little bit. And, like Toffoli finally breaking through in Game 7, I think that if Jarnkrok gets one, because of the quality of chances he's been getting, that he'll score a few. It's just that... despite the lack of offense, his defensive play has been really exceptional, and I think needed to be singled out for some praise on that.
Yeah, and I think it's also very similar to what we've seen, in the early years of Michael Backlund, where he wasn't scoring and fans weren't giving him maybe the credit he deserved. Fans like the guys that are scoring goals, and I think that you're right. He plays a different role in this team.
Yeah, and for your third line center, him playing defense first, that's kind of a good thing. So
the next question, and we'll interpret this maybe in different ways. I'm probably saying this wrong, but Raghav, R-A-G-H-A-V is his name, and his Twitter handle's R-A-G-H-A-V worldwide. Matt, his question is, did it really happen?
I know, it feels like that. It's like, this is not the Calgary Flames team that I remember. We actually won.
It's literally, and I would say so often in that first round, honestly, if I take my Flames fan out of it, it felt like the Flames were probably doomed.
Yeah.
Like when you looked at Ottinger and you looked at what he was doing, there's a number of times I thought, crap, this is over.
Yeah, and literally this is why I thought it was so important to hire Daryl specifically. Because he is the best teacher in the game. And especially when you're facing adversity and you have a relatively inexperienced group, learning on the fly what it actually takes when you're throwing a curveball. Like, nobody expected Ottinger to channel Dominic Hasek or Patrick Waugh, but he did. And Calgary could have easily gotten frustrated and blew the series. If Dallas had scored a goal more in Game 7, that would have been it. But, the Flames managed to find the way to win. And, in spite of a historic performance. And that is the difference. And, I'm glad that they were able to get out of their own way for a change and let their actual talent show in the playoffs. And this is more of the team that I've been expecting over the last handful of years. It's just Daryl's bringing it actually out when the games matter.
Yeah, I guess going back to the question here, did it really happen? I think, part of it is, we finally got here. We got to this point with a veteran coach, like you're saying. But if I narrow that down to even the last 7 games, it felt like the storybook ending to that series, didn't it? Like you're in overtime, you're down to the last 5 minutes, the star of the team solves the goalie. Like, when we look back on this 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now,
yeah,
that's the best ending we could have had.
Oh, for sure.
And if it was Trevor Lewis solved it, I mean, that's neat, but it's, that's something that Johnny Gaudreau is going to remember and be remembered for.
Yeah. The Dragon Slayer, basically.
Exactly. So, to answer Raghav, it happened. And I remember I was watching at home last night, and the Gaudreau goal went in. I didn't believe it at first. Like I had to wait for the replay, and I know I was standing in my house yelling and just, so excited. And you saw people in the red lot. Like it was just, yeah, it happened. And the Flames dealt with the adversity. They solved Ottinger, and here we are.
I know. First time since 1988 that the Flames won a series in the first round that did not involve the Vancouver Canucks. So all we needed to do was absorb a portion of the Vancouver Canucks team, and now we can actually beat other teams in the first round.
And really, I mean, all of Canada's eyes are going to be on us now.
Yeah. Well, frankly, of the Canadian teams remaining, Calgary definitely has the better chance to actually win the cup. And one of the two of us will be getting to the conference finals, but I think only one of the two can actually beat Colorado or St. Louis if they get there. So
don't waste.
We'll see. And these opportunities don't come along often. And if you want to actually win the Stanley Cup, getting this is why facing Ottinger in the first round and his Stars team that had been to the Cup finals and the conference finals in the past couple of years was just so huge, because in the third round, if they get there, they're going to be playing either a team that recently won the Stanley Cup or one of the best teams in the NHL. And, Calgary now knows what it takes to actually beat a team like that, where they didn't before. And, if they had walked over the Stars and the Oilers, say, and got to the conference finals, I don't think I'd be very confident in the Flames finding that second gear to go and beat a Colorado or a St. Louis. But now that they've had to figure out how to beat a goalie doing that, I think that they've learned enough where they could actually. Let's get through
Edmonton before we worry about Colorado,
of course, but in the hypothetical that the Flames get past the Oilers, they've learned enough, I think, from the first round series that they will put up a good fight against whomever.
And just a quick note, not something we need to discuss in depth because there's not a lot to discuss, but the Flames made a signing today. Calgary Flames signed Czech forward Adam Kalapka to a 2-year deal. Kalapka, 21 years old, stands 6'7" and weighs 245. He's a right-handed right winger, scored 6 goals and 18 points in 44 Czech League games. Matt, that's a big boy.
Yeah, and I think that he was brought over because of his size, and I kind of view him as an E2 Tulola replacement, kind of. I don't assume that we're going to re-sign Tulola, but just that big, heavy winger for Stockton or wherever Stockton is going to be playing next year.
And Stockton just swept their series, but we're talking about them.
Yeah, and wouldn't that be fitting if the Stockton Heat, them sweeping the Bakersfield Condors, which is the Edmonton Oilers farm team, be fitting if the Flames followed their farm team's lead on that?
Well, let's talk about that. So we've got the big Battle of Alberta coming up. It's Monday as we're recording. This series is, of course, we got 4 games scheduled, but 7 possible. And unlike the last series, time's all over the map for this one. Wednesday night, it's a 7:30 start. Friday night, it's an 8:30 start. Sunday, it's a 6 o'clock start. And then Tuesday, it's a 7:30 start. But we're really worried about 3 of these games. We can go back to last week, but really didn't matter because we didn't get all 7 predicted. We only went to game 5.
We went to game 6. You actually got it
6.
right. You said that we were going to win game 4 and 5 and lose 6, and you were
correct. But I didn't predict 7, right?
Yeah, well, you were still correct for what we did actually predict.
So if we're going to give me that one, then I'm fine. You don't have the shutout anymore, Matt.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's my first win of the season.
Yeah.
Somehow I made it to the playoffs without a win all season, but here I am. So 3 games in the docket. Obviously, the first 2 of these in Calgary, the second 2 in Edmonton, but we're only going to predict the first 3 because we'll be recording for game 4. Matt, what are you thinking for games 1, 2, 3?
Win, loss, win. Just because we suck in game 2 for whatever reason. So
So you think the Flames are going to come out on the 18th, get the big Game 1 win, not do well in Game 2, and then win in Edmonton in Game 3?
Yep.
I'm gonna be you this season. You've been overly optimistic this season. I'm gonna say the Flames get three wins.
Okay.
I don't think they follow it with the 4th win, but I think they'll pull off the first 3.
That would I am hoping that you go 2 for 2.
It's worked for you all season, Matt. You've been so optimistic and you've won 6 times. So I'm gonna pull something out of your playbook.
Okay, fine. Me being Mr. Rational and you being Mr. Irrational. Sure, why
there
not?
you go. I don't know. I have a feeling that the Flames, I don't think this is and we talked about earlier, I don't think this is like any other series. And the Flames and Edmonton too are going to be up for this one. There's a lot more than just 7 hockey games on the line with the Battle of Alberta. And I think these guys are going to be going out there and tearing it up.
Yeah. Well, I'm just hopeful that regardless of how and in what order the Flames win, that they just collect 4 against the Oilers. Because I do not I do not want to listen to the Oilers talking trash all summer.
Even in the games we lose, you know that these are going to be fun games.
Oh yeah. Well, every game's going to be just raucous. Like I'll be there in Game 1. It's going to be insane. Like I've been to basically every playoff game, mostly from like 2004 to 2017, and
this will be a different level.
Yeah, like even when things were raucous against Vancouver, both in 04 and against Vancouver in 14-15, like this is a whole different level of hatred. So
this sounds kind of weird, but I almost hope this goes to 5, just because I think for Flames fans, we'd like to end this one at home.
Well, hopefully we're not being overly confident, and that the Flames can just at least get the 4 wins and on to the next round.
That brings us to almost the end of our show for the week, but as everyone knows, we've been playing playoff anthems every week, and there's one song that I keep hearing from people. We need a new version of In the Dome. We all remember In the Dome from 04. I think most of us can probably still sing it, right? We're chilling. You'll find me at the Dome chilling with Jerome, and obviously Jerome's not here. But Matt, I found a new version.
Okay, fire away.
Someone on YouTube has posted a new version, and this year's refrain is "You'll find me in the Dome chilling with Lindholm." So let's go chill in the Dome, listening to the 2022 version by Dennis M. Why don't you take us out of here, and then we will go. We'll go from here to go chill at the Dome.
And as always, go Flames, go! Oh wait, the Oilers suck.
And the sea of red erupts as the Flames win.
You can put it in the win column. Playoffs! Yeah, baby!
Hey, that new Flame. What's his name again? Is it Yarn? Crow. Yo, Cully, welcome to the Flames. We gon' party like
it's your birthday.
But we don't want Bacardi, all we want is champagne. And now you got the whole city chanting go Flames. Find me in the Dome, chillin' with Lindholm and my boy Matthew Tkachuk and my man Johnny Gaudreau. From the drop of the puck, constantly scorching their foes, they gon' hit 'em like a truck till they're bringing Stanley home. You can find me in the Dome, chillin' with Lindholm and my boy Matthew Tkachuk and my man Johnny Gaudreau. Excitement levels going up, red mile still strong, cause we craving that cup. That's right, it's coming home. It's the toot to the O2-2. Let him hear a sea of red all May and all June. Let him know what we're about. That time has come, no hesitation. We'll be screaming at the top of our lungs. Best believe you and me know we never leave. Sensated loyalty endlessly to that flaming sea. The best damn team anyone has ever seen. Back where they're meant to be, relentlessly chasing the dream. Daryl got the boys poised, focused as can be. To take that journey, gotta win those sweet 16. To sip from the mug of our Lord Stanley. Thanks to Sutter and the architect of living tree. The city be buzzing more than ever before, bringing back those vibes just like before. The puck was in, you bet your ass it's gonna be again. The Flames are back and baby, they are ready to contend. To the opposition, this the only message I can send. When you see that flaming sea, sorry, your run about to end. Next year, these men will be ready to defend. That the MO of this team, never break, never bend. Look at these players, man, they got the perfect blend. They keep bringing that fire again and again. When in their only trend, their opponents they append. Anytime I got time, you know how I'm gonna spend. Me in the dome, chillin' with Lindholm and my boy Matthew Tkachuk and my man Johnny Gaudreau. From the drop of the puck, constantly scorching their foes, they gon' hit 'em like a truck till they're bringing Stanley home. You can find me in the dome, chillin' with Lindholm and my boy Matthew Tkachuk and my man Johnny Gaudreau. Excitement levels going up, red mile still strong, cause we craving that cup. That's right, it's coming home. Anytime's a good time to walk with Elias, cause he's one of the best. No matter your bias, I'm feeling hungry, man, now I wanna eat bread. Ain't no time for assists, only goals instead. Always keep your eyes open for Tyler Toffoli. Better watch out or he will violate your goalie. For 1 or 2 or maybe more, how about 3? Thinking back to that trade, baby, that was a steal. And don't even get me started on Jacob Markstrom, cause he be taking them farther than any other stopper could, while snagging all the donuts for the red and gold. Truth be told, he put the most on every shooter pole. Thank the Lord he was brought into the fold. See him stop every puck and watch the opposition fold. Oh, and haven't mentioned yet, Bax is back. Rosie-Ann Carpenter, always on the attack. And pay respect to Luch, or else you're a fool. And shoutouts to my boys Doobie-Doo and Trevor Lou. Are you ready? You better get set. Goalmen be fine in the back of the net. You might be thinking, that's right, you bet. Before was a sick team, this one better yet. Find me in the dome, chillin' with Lindholm and my boy Matthew Tkachuk and my man Johnny Gaudreau. From the drop of the puck, constantly scorching their foes, they gon' hit 'em like a truck till they're bringing Stanley home. You can find me in the dome, chillin' with Lindholm and my boy Matthew Tkachuk and my man Johnny Gaudreau. Excitement levels going up, red mile still strong, cause we craving that cup. That's right, it's coming home. Tanev, Hannafin, Rass, and Chili comprise the best D in the league. Forecheck, back check, paycheck, double U's. This the team I love and that will never change. That's right, Big G, Big Z, bringing the pain all day long. And don't try to act like you don't know where they're going either. All the way to the cup, and they clean it up.
They score! The Flames win it! Yeah, baby! They score! Yeah, baby! Yeah, baby! Martin Gilliland scores! The Flames win it! Yeah, baby!
I remember vividly losing in Game 7 in Tampa and feeling so bad for the players because everything that they'd put into it. And for me, it's unfinished business.
Fireside Chat is hosted by Dan Stevenson, co-hosted by Matt DeBorg. This episode produced and edited by Peter Marino. Fireside Chat is licensed under Creative Commons license. For full license details, visit firesidechat.ca.